Okay, hi, it's Emily, and it's a few seconds later for me, but it'll be the next video for you. I'm going to continue the conversation about the books that I read in the month of May. I just previously posted a video about the first 7 books that I read, but I just didn't want to have one video with all 13 books because I think that just would have been a really long video. So I decided to put the last half of the month in a separate video. And yeah, just didn't have time previously to just record the first half of the month earlier and post that. So, you know, 2 videos back to back, whatever. But yeah, so these are going to be the last 6 books that I read in the month of May. So the first one I'm going to talk about is 8 Will Fall by Sarah Harrion. I listened to this one on Scribd, and it was a Fairy Loot book, I think from back in December. And this one follows a group of people who have certain magic, and in this world, people who have these powers are definitely targeted. They're literally mining, or forced to mine the thing that kind of helps suppress their power. And some things are happening in the kingdom that makes the leader of this kingdom go to some of these groups of people that have this magic and basically force them to go into a very dangerous part of this kingdom to kind of search for someone. So it's a cave-like setting, and it's kind of their adventure, and there are 8 of them, and it's kind of their adventure going down, or it's kind of their journey going down into this cave to see what they can find. And you know, they start losing people along the way, and they come across different beings, and they come across different people, and there's different magic that's involved. Yeah, there definitely were some fun elements to the story and some fun parts to the story that I was definitely intrigued by, but ultimately I just thought there wasn't enough depth there. I didn't really connect with a lot of the characters. I think that the characters were well developed, or, you know, I don't necessarily need to like connect in a sense of like I identify with the character, but I at least want to feel personally, I like to feel like I at least know some things about the characters and can kind of picture who they are and how they would react in different situations, and kind of really feel like I at least know some things about them as a character and could kind of picture them actually existing. And I just don't think the depth for a lot of these characters was actually there for me. I just kind of felt that they were kind of generic. And as things started happening to some of these characters, I ultimately found that I just didn't really care that much. There also definitely were a lot of conveniences that were used to just kind of explain some things away or move the plot along, that I was like, could have done something else here, something that just seems less convenient or could be consistent with the things that are happening in the rest of the story, instead of just being some random thing that suddenly is there to resolve something or move the plot forward. So it was a little bit frustrating just because it happened so frequently. You know, ultimately I just felt this one had quite a bit of potential as an idea, and some of the cool elements to the story were definitely there. So there was potential, but it didn't quite work for me. So I also listened to Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, who follows Camille Preaker, who is a journalist, and she is a journalist in Chicago who goes home to her small town, and I think it was in Missouri, right? She goes home to her small town that's kind of a decent drive south of Chicago. So she goes back home because there are some murders. There was a murder that happened in her town that was the second murder that kind of followed a similar MO. She was staying home while reporting on this, and that was kind of hard for her because she does not have a good relationship with her mother. Her mother is pretty messed up, and she's pretty messed up. Basically her whole family is kind of messed up, and she is having to figure out or kind of reintegrate herself, even if it's for a temporary time. She has to kind of reintegrate herself into her small town, and is kind of reminded why she was so desperate to get out. So she's, you know, coming back in contact with people that she knew in high school, and she's trying to help figure out what's going on with these murders. It's the murder of two young women, two girls, that is kind of prompting this. And, you know, it kind of follows the secrets of this small town. Huge trigger warning for self-harm. The main character does talk extensively about her history with self-harm. There's also a lot of talk about alcoholism, and so just to note that, in case that's something that you need to note. But this one was definitely interesting. I love Gillian Flynn's writing style a lot. I really love the narrator. I listened to some audio from Libby. I thought the narrator did a fantastic job, and I think Gillian is such a master at really developing these just really interesting, complex, kind of messed up characters who kind of have their own flaws, like deep flaws, and just kind of developing those characters and just getting a window into their life. She is such a master at that. I don't tend to enjoy kind of the small town secrets kind of books, so I think this one personally intrigued me less than Gone Girl did. Even if I didn't particularly love the ending of Gone Girl, this one definitely just intrigued me a bit less than Gone Girl did. Even if I was still like pretty intrigued by the characters and the situation. I just thought it was just so fascinating. Like, I just find her writing and her characters just so compelling that there was no way I was gonna stop listening. And I definitely listened to this audiobook pretty quickly. I then wanted a slightly lighter book. So I listened to Royals. There was a rename and a cover change for this one. So it used to be Royals with this cover, and it's currently Prince Charming with this cover, but same book by Rachel Hawkins. So it follows a teenager in Florida whose sister is about to get married to a prince of Scotland, and you know, her sister comes home and reveals that they're not just in a relationship anymore, but they're about to be engaged, or that they are engaged now. And so she ends up one summer going to Scotland to kind of meet the royal family over there, kind of get a little bit used to royal life and kind of get introduced, because even if she's not going to be the main person in the spotlight, she still is the sister of a Scottish princess, or a future Scottish princess. And so, you know, she goes there and kind of gets introduced to a bunch of people. You know, a bunch of things are planned for her to kind of get introduced to Scottish Royal Society, and kind of get some things ready before the wedding. And so she, you know, meets the rest of the family, and she also meets a bunch of the prince's friends. And so it's her experiences in Scotland, it's her love story with one of the people that she meets there, and it was absolutely precious. I really enjoyed this one. It was just a good time. It was really, really funny. Just so many absurd scenarios that were just absolutely hilarious. Another thing I realized while listening to this book is that the Scottish national animal is a unicorn. I thought I couldn't want to go to Scotland more than I did before reading this book. But yeah, this one was just a pure delight. I was laughing the entire time, and it was just a bunch of just silly scenarios about her in Scotland, trying to figure out royal life, or being slightly removed from royal life. And she also, her friend is there for part of the summer as well. Yeah, it was just a fun cast of characters, and I just thoroughly enjoyed just all of the shenanigans that entire group got up to. I also felt like I could handle a nonfiction self-help book. So I saw this around on one of my parents' shelves, and so I decided to listen to the audiobook, and that was Emotional Agility. And this is by Susan David. I actually really enjoyed this one. It wasn't a lot that I didn't know, but that's just because I really love psychology, and I've read a decent number of self-help books and kind of just love following the research that's kind of at the intersection of those two things. So there wasn't a ton in here that was surprising to me, but it was definitely stuff that was good to hear again, especially now. And so it actually helped. It actually was just good things to think about, good things to be reminded of. So if you're looking for something like this that's about your relationship to negative emotions, and being able to experience them in a healthy way without letting them control you, it was definitely interesting. So, would recommend, especially right now. Next one I listened to was Wallflower Wager, and this is actually technically the third book in the Tessa Dare Girl Meets Duke series. The first one was the Duchess Deal, which I read earlier in May, and I have the second one on hold in the library. You can really read them in whatever order, and I mean, you're introduced to this group in the first book, so it actually was kind of helpful to read that one first, just to kind of be introduced to this group of people. But I mean, really, you can read them in whatever order because they're standalone books. And this one was the one that followed Penny, who is a delight. I love Penny. She is the one that takes care of animals, so she has a whole menagerie that she takes care of. And it's, you know, not just a bunch of dogs and cats either, but she has quite a collection. She has an otter, she's got some goats, you know, a bird. Like, she's got a lot of different animals that she takes care of. And there's a duke who owns the property next to her and is trying to sell it. And so he's fixing things up to kind of be able to sell this house, and he's wanting to sell it because you can, if the house is next to a lady, she's a lady. If you have a house that's next to a lady, it can fetch a really good price, because, you know, there are a lot of people who want to kind of live next door to a lady and kind of help move up in society, I guess. And so he's hoping to sell this house for a good price. And her she's also facing a lot of pressure. So she's in her mid-20s, I think, and isn't married, and so she's kind of seen as this, you know, loner spinster person who's just gonna like hang out with her animals until she dies. And her brother is concerned about her, and you know, her aunt is concerned about her, and they essentially have an ultimatum of like, you need to get rid of your animals, you need to kind of integrate yourself into, you know, society again, kind of find yourself a husband, or at least just get out more. Like, you need to get into the circle and get out and do things, or her brother essentially was going to make her come back home. And, you know, so needs to get rid of these animals. He also, the duke that lives next door, also has an incentive to have the animals find different homes so that he can still get a good price for this house without living next door to a bunch of noisy animals. And so they essentially are trying to work together or end up working together to find homes for these animals, and you know, fall in love in the process. And it's just a delight. I love Penny, and I love her taking care of these animals, and him, he's not really a huge animal person, and it takes him a while to come around to the animals, but they were just a lot of fun, and I freaking love Penny. Definite trigger warnings for history of sexual abuse as a child. She does kind of go into that, and it's definitely a huge part of this story, kind of as some things get resolved with different characters, I guess I'll say. So trigger warning for that, if that's something that you need to be careful about. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was kind of the same, just humorous writing style as the Duchess Deal, and I just, you know, I was just laughing the whole time. I think I was laughing out loud slightly less in this one than I was in the Duchess Deal, but this one was still hilarious and a lot of fun, and had a bunch of animals in it, so that's never a bad thing. So the last book that I read in the month of May, I listened to an audio from the library, and that was Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And yeah, my hold for this one came available. I've had my eye on this one for quite a while, and it just seemed like so much fun, and it definitely was. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. It's set in 1920s Mexico, and it follows Cassiopeia, a young girl who is kind of discontent with her family life. She's discontent with kind of the small town that she lives in, just kind of doesn't really see her place in everything there. So she one day accidentally kind of unleashes and comes across this god. He needs her help to get back at his brother for confining him and kind of taking away parts of his body and parts of his essence. And so he needs to go around to different places to literally collect these parts of his body and kind of get his essence back, and then challenge his brother for the throne of kind of their god world, essentially. And this one was just so much fun. The setting was incredible. The writing was really good. I really loved Cassiopeia. And the gods were hilarious, and just kind of the way they relate to each other and the way they relate to humans is really interesting. And just kind of the characters and the creatures that they come across along the way were really interesting. It was just so much fun. This one was a lot of fun. It was not my favorite audiobook, so I definitely would love to reread this one physically. I don't know what exactly it was, but this one wasn't quite clicking for me as an audiobook. I think I'm going to want to reread this one in the future anyway, because this one was just such a fun story and, you know, fun characters. I definitely am going to want to reread this. So those are the 6 books that I read in the last part of May. And yeah, be sure to subscribe for more bookish content. And I'll be sure to link my Twitter and Instagram down below. That's where I like to chat. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.